I'm in it like in this camera right
Okay.
here. So yeah.
Okay. So we'll get some footage.
Sure.
All right, man. Well, this is our third episode of the HemoLife podcast. I appreciate you joining me, Carlin. I know you're going to be showing up to my house pretty soon. We're going to do our live in-person episode. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, that'd be exciting.
But I also wanted to introduce you to Caleb. He just met him here. I actually went to the gym, and I saw him in there with his cousins, and they were working hard, and I was impressed. So I had to talk to him and friends and on the podcast. But Caleb,
what's up?
That's nice. How's it going, Caleb? Nice to meet you, man.
How you doing, Carmen? Yeah, for sure. So I have a brother and a nephew that has hemophilia with me. So yeah, now we got together with LA. You know, like who's this big strong guy? Hey, check out this stuff. Kick it all from there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
yeah, man. And Caleb's got a powerful journey so far. You know, he's looking to be a hematologist.
Yeah.
So he's gonna hematologist and really kind of deep dive into nutrition as well. And but you can tell a little bit more about what your mission is.
Right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm currently a first year public health student at Cornell University. So I have a concentration in food systems. So I'm looking at the science of food, how the food system in the greater environment, how it plays into just people having accessing quality food. That's why I was kind of asking you a little bit about what's the nutritional side, personally with hemophilia, because there's definitely association with that. My end goal is definitely to go into medical school to be a doctor. Still debating as to the specifics, but ultimately I want to stay within the realm of research and hemophilia. So however that looks. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
How long is that process to get to that end goal?
So there's a lot of different routes when it comes to going into medical school and stuff. Or me personally, I got my undergraduate degree for 4 years. I went to Ithaca College, got my undergraduate degree in public health. It was through public health that I kind of saw the that nuance of population health, but I also seen how the population of hemophiliacs were related very closely with public health. When you think about things like the history of hemophiliacs and HIV/AIDS epidemic, that's a direct public health issue. So I wanted to add that layer to my education in addition to the medical side, because I think it gives a holistic picture of just health, and then you could break it down from the individual level all the way to the population level. And I'm just very passionate about just pushing the research and understanding of hemophilia. So that's kind of my motivation.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be so much more to your story that got you to this point. This mindset, this passion for helping out the community. So
Definitely.
I want to deep dive and ask you a few more questions here in a little bit.
Sure.
But Carlin, why don't you? This is your first time on the HemoLife podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
Hello, I am Carlin, commonly known as MacLift as my Instagram handle. I was born with hemophilia. I was a competitive swimmer all my life. I am now a competitive swim coach. I coach clubs year round, and I also dibble-dabble into personal training. The personal training is mainly to try to help those hemophiliacs that don't know where to start. And working out is a great tool to try to keep your body going and keep you going. Because when I work out, each day gets better and better.
Yeah.
So,
yes. Stories, because I know you went to college, you were competing at a high level in swimming, and then,
I tore my rotator cuff, had to have surgery on my rotator cuff. Went back to swimming, dropped some pounds in swimming. Then I went back, and once I went back, I swam maybe one swim meet when I went back, and my rotator cuff started to hurt again. So I went to get another MRI, and they told me either you can have another surgery or you can just be done with swimming. And I kind of was just like, okay, I stepped away for a little while, and I picked up bodybuilding. It took a while for me to pick up bodybuilding. I just didn't quit. I came back home from St. Louis, Missouri, stayed at my parents' house for a few years to get back to try to find my kind of grounding again, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Then towards the end of like 2022, that's when I kind of was like, okay,
Yeah.
something has to change. I have to get back going. Something has to give here. So that's when I got into bodybuilding, and from there, it progressed me. Like when you hear the saying, "The gym changes your life," that's like a real saying. Because if it wasn't for me getting back into the gym, some of the doors that opened after me getting into the gym would have never been open.
Yeah.
Because literally right after I got back into the gym, I kind of my brother reached out and we got able to coach for a high school and middle school swim team down in Houston, Texas,
Yeah.
called Audi International School. And we are now 3-time defending champions, me and my brother. So just having that opportunity, then that opportunity alone opened another door for me to go coach club swimming.
Yeah.
So like it's having the bleeding disorder itself is challenging and it's and all. Then when you put in just a normal day to life that you have to keep up with, can be challenging. But at the end of the day, I like to remind myself of like if I keep going and I keep putting my steps in front of my other steps, there's something that will happen at the end.
Yeah. So it sounds like I mean, I kind of believe in that too. You know, it's almost like an energy. So, like being in the gym, you're creating a new energy, a new frequency within the world, and the world has to respond to that new energy that you're putting out there. And then,
Yeah.
like I said, doors start to open up. You might not know where those doors are coming from, but just the way you present yourself, the way you walk, the way you talk, your confidence, everything. So, I mean, I do believe. I mean, I'm on the same belief as you. So we're kind of on the same path as far as using fitness to change people's lives in the hemophilia community. And yeah, I'm super proud of what you've been doing, man. I know you just got done competing too.
Yeah, I did just compete in my first bodybuilding show here in 2023. Um, there's thoughts, excuse me, there's thoughts of doing another one. I don't know when I will do another one, but there are thoughts of me going to do another one.
Okay.
Right now, I am in the process of my cut. So when I started my cut, I started off at like 240, and I started that on in January,
Yeah.
and now I'm at like 213. So
Okay. Nice. Going good.
the cuts going pretty good. So by the time I get down there to you for the live in person interview, to try to be under 210, close to knocking like 205.
All right, I'm gonna make you take your shirt off in front of the camera, man. If you don't have a six pack, you're out, man. I don't know if you've seen any of but six pack, you're gone, bro. But hey, Caleb, I want to ask you, man, like, how do you feel? Like, he was kind of talking about changing his energy, like in the gym. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can probably change your energy and stuff and how the world reacts. Like, do you have any experience with, like, with that process?
No, definitely. So like similarly to Karma, like I ran track in high school for 4 years. That was like my like first outlet, and it was through like so taking a step back, actually, growing up, I think one of the shared sentiments that a lot of hemophiliacs have is, we are constrained to doing physical activities, just because of the limitation that comes with our condition, the risk factors that are associated, just by like hitting or any physical contact. So it was this term that my hematologist always used to say to me and my mom. It's no physical contact sports. So like when you actually break that down, like that's majority of sport. So it's like you're telling a child, hey, you can't go play with the other kids outside because of this condition. Trying to explain that to a child with this, they just want to have fun and stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, like it took a lot of advocating and pushing. Yeah. So I finally was like, in high school I found track, and that was sort of that middle where it was physical but not really. But I was like, hey, I'll take it, and I ran with it. No pun intended. So.
Yeah. Did you want to? Did them telling you no? Did that make you want to rebel, or did you just already have such a passion for it that kind of a mixture?
Right. No. That's exactly what happened. Honestly, like I'm from New York City, so like the first thing they would say to me is that you can't do something, I'm gonna do it. Like that's just sort of the energy. So especially with my growing up in the household, like I was told no so much. It kind of turned resentful. Like I was resentful, and I was like, no, I wanted to rebel. So what you and yeah, I ended up going down this very hectic path to say the least growing up, and I was, at like some of the situations that I was in, you'd be like, why is this hemophiliac child even in this area? But I made it work. Ended up going track, and then I ran in college for a couple of years before COVID happened. Okay. I went in 2019 and then COVID. So so kind of similar to your story, that was my outlet, fitness and working out. It definitely was a part for me that is part of my story for sure.
I always feel like that's like a common sentiment between a lot of the hemophiliacs is that we feel like it's like us versus this thing, like us versus hemophilia, and I know me personally growing up, I tried every job out there, landscaping, construction, all those hardworking jobs, and I wanted to prove like I can be a man, I can do this, but my body would not stop telling me and remind me like, you can't do this.
And that's something I think a lot of hemophiliacs share. There's something to prove. I think that's what you're kind of alluding to. Like, I have something.
But could that be dangerous though? Like trying to prove too much against your disorder? Like,
definitely, because it's like, I think the question comes more about like how can you communicate to hemophiliacs? Like, you could push your boundaries within parameters. If that kind of makes sense. It's a little weird when you think about it. It's like isn't pushing the boundaries out the parameters, but again, like
that's actually funny. But it does make sense to me. So, like, I get it.
It does.
That's funny.
So I think like we all kind of in a similar situation where we have something to prove. We want to put adversity. Persevere, and I think that's something every hemophiliac could relate to in some sense. So.
For sure. What do you feel? How do you feel about that, Carlin? You feel like
I mean, that's definitely he hit it right on the nail when he said you have to push it but stay in those parameters. Because I mean, in my 8th grade year, I switched schools because I was going through a little rough time. So I switched schools and I had to stop swimming for a while. I learned how to swim when I was 4 years old, by the way. So I stopped swimming for a while and I was like, Mom, I just can't not do anything. So I was like, can I play basketball? So I asked my mom to let me play basketball. She took the longest time to say yes. It took a lot of, please, I know what I'm doing. Because I had an older brother. So I was already playing with my older brother. It was just like, Mom, let me go try it out for once. I tried it out. And out of the whole season, I probably had like 2, maybe 3 ankle bleeds. And that's when I was like, okay, I did it. It was fun. I don't need it anymore. I mean, like, even that I'm older now, I can still go play like pickup games and here and there. But like the biggest thing when you have this bleeding disorder is knowing your body. And a lot of the people that I have DM'd back and forth when it comes to working out, you can very easily mistaking, and this comes out of fear, I feel like, because I did the same thing when I was swimming. It comes out of fear. You can mistake soreness for a bleed, and it not even. We're so caught up on bleeding and hemophilia that we forget that we are still normal people. We still can be sore and not have a bleed. And I feel like once a lot of hemophiliacs understand that and understand their bodies, we can kind of start to, because now, like when I go play basketball, I'm like very aware. Like I just don't go out there and like try to fly everywhere. Like when I come down, I'm looking to where I'm coming down at. So like most of the things I do is just I try to be more aware. And like when people see me coming because I'm big, they think I'm just about to run right through them. No, I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want to get hurt.
So one thing, like you made me think of the other day when I was in the gym, I started to think about knowing the difference between pushing to like through the pain, like what like because you are going to experience some kind of pain when you work out, but it's a certain type of pain. So like understanding, is this joint pain? Is this pain going to give me a bleed, or is this pain the natural process of breaking down muscle? It's a burn.
Yeah.
You know that the burn is in the right area. It's in the right part of the muscle that you're going after. But there is a fine line, and because I remember when I first started, I'd be like, my joints would hurt. I'd be like, oh, I don't care. I'm pushing through the pain. I'm gonna get big. That's a mistake, though. You're gonna get hurt that way. So. So I mean, we'll dive deeper into that on your one-on-one session, like more of like the health and fitness stuff, and like figure, help give people tips on that. But that's something that's interesting.
If I could harp on your point a little bit too, with that as well, that is something I think it's so like real, like how can you distinguish sometimes, like if because I go to the gym a lot too with my brother as well, we're big gym guys, we love to lift, but again, that's something that you kind of highlighted it very well. Like, it's so hard to tell. Like, in the gym, the gym culture is like, hey, or fitness culture, like, you gotta push through your pain. That's one of the things. But what does that mean for hemophiliac? Like, push the lead, or but the repercussions for that. And that was something. That's a nuance to our community that only we, at least to my understanding, that we really have to. Sort of deal with when we're trying to just stay healthy, stay in shape, or both of you gentlemen are working out in the fitness industry, so I'm sure this is something that you have to handle all the time. Like, okay, is this a muscle contraction, or am I causing a bleed in my joint or something? Like, and it's a tricky place to navigate. So definitely,
it is.
Be fearful for some, especially if they go in there and get hurt and they get discouraged, and then they're like, okay, I'm never doing this again. So I think what you're doing with your mission with fitness, I think it's important. One thing I want to ask Caleb to kind of go to a different subject is, I feel like we all go through like really hard times, setbacks where we experience a lot of adversity. And one thing that I see in the community is some people know how to get back up and have the right mindset, or somehow they develop that right mindset to persevere. Caleb, like, is there any like times that you've gone through like mental depression or setbacks? And then, like, how did you overcome that? Did you have to develop a certain mindset or take certain actions?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I want to just put it out there too. Like, I'm a very, very big advocate for men's mental health, just across the board. Especially for hemophiliacs, because nobody understands what we go through other than us. Because it's so nuanced what we deal with. So, kind of going back to your question about like mental health, definitely. As a child, when you're restricted from your community, I couldn't go and do things, and growing up, that's gonna have mental health implications. But I also think that question is very, it's a very tricky question to go into as well, just because it's very multifactorial in the sense of what plays into the roles of people developing mental health issues. And I think it could come from your households, for example. Some people come from more privileged households than others. Now, being a hemophiliac in a richer home versus a poorer home, that's going to be a significant difference as well. I kind of fall on the lower end in terms of socioeconomic status. I come from, my parents, they came from Puerto Rico to the States, and my mom always knew that she was a carrier. I had 7 uncles with hemophilia, so this isn't something new, but my mother always knew that hemophilia was a potential when she has children. So, growing up in that environment, and when I was born in and having to navigate that, I realized I was going through so many mental health challenges that I didn't even know there were mental health challenges, because as a man, especially in the culture that I come from, in New York City at that, it's so like, it's just chaotic. Just man up, figure it out. And,
So your environment almost prepared you to be like tough enough to handle everything?
100%. Like,
so you're saying that's kind of an advantage for you then, that you grew up in a tougher environment to deal with a disorder like this?
It's an advantage, but at the same time, it's also like, it's very, it could have its setbacks as well, because of the fact, like, when you're growing up, so there's this term that is called allostatic load. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So this term basically is when, as humans, we have this fight or flight instinct. It's primitive. It goes back to our bottom. So allostatic load is essentially that fight or flight activating in our systems, where we enter this high state, and our body is basically telling us to, engage or run away. That feeling that you experience on a physiological level is supposed to be temporary, and you go back down. People who come from environments where it's constantly chaotic, they're experiencing that allostatic load constantly. And what that leads to is something called allostatic overload. Allostatic overload has detrimental health effects, and that can lead to things like heightened mental health issues, physical issues, the list goes down. So these are real terms that people are dealing with that they don't even know how that can communicate it, So I would say like it wasn't up until I started going to get my education that I learned like this is what I was experiencing all my life because I knew I was experiencing something, but this was so tying that back with hemophilia and I was in this allostatic load, like no, it definitely amplified my mental health as well, and that alone was a barrier to overcome. And I think the question you was asking is like, how did I learn to overcome it? Honestly, it's a lot of answers, but I think one thing that comes to mind is just my support system. I know like I have my best friend, he's in the room with me too, and he was a big person in my life that was always, just there for me, whether it was through bleeds, whether it was through things outside of life, like just having that person or people in your support system is something that is important, even if it's that one person. I think. So I think that's just a quick answer that comes to mind, but I think it's one of those things that's a deeper dive discussion. To really.
No, but I'm glad I asked that because based on what you said, that's the fact that it took you, to get to college, get more educated, to understand that, like you have to figure out what the root cause is usually in order to overcome something, some of your struggles. So that's really cool. I'll have to look more into that.
No, definitely.
It's great. I'm sure that can help some people who live in that same environment. I wasn't in that environment, so I'm sure it doesn't affect me.
But. So if I may kind of ask you, that, because we just met, last weekend and stuff. So like, I mean, what was your experiences like with that too? Because I'm speaking from a point of view from one end, but you come from another end. So like, what was mental health like for you?
So for me, like looking back now, I realized so much. I realized that I didn't have a support system. I didn't have my one go-to person. I didn't have the strong family unit. My parents got separated early on, had a bunch of new kids, and then just started their own family. And I was really told to just infuse on my own. Like, I learned how to self-infuse early on. And they just kind of looked at me to kind of handle my own business. I grew up in a tough love family, so it wasn't like, oh, come here, baby. Like, oh, let me go advocate for you. Let me take you to a hemophilia conference. So like it was none of that. It was just tough love. I don't even remember hugging my parents. So it took me to and I suffered a lot. And looking back, I realized, man, I needed someone in my life. I needed a mentor. I needed to see someone who had what I had so that I could have a new belief system. And so when I hit rock bottom after my Hep C treatments, I went through 3 months of interferon injections where you inject yourself once a week and you're just like crazy sick, throwing up. And at the end of the 3 months, I did get rid of the hepatitis C, but I was at an all-time low. I was a mess. I felt like I didn't offer the world anything. I didn't have any purpose anymore in my life. And I just had to take a good look in the mirror and say, if I don't want to live for myself, who do I want to live for? And I just thought about that little kid who was suffering. And I was like, what if I can create a man that little kid would have looked up to, And so that's been my journey ever since. And then I found bodybuilding. And I saw the men's physique category. My ankles are completely locked. I can't straighten out my left elbow, my left arm. But when I saw the men's physique category, I was like, I think I could do that. I think I could look like that guy. And I just went on that journey and I started documenting it like 10 years ago on social media. And I started getting feedback from it. People for the first time, somebody showing, I never got the love as a kid, but the community was showing me love. And I was like, okay, here we go. This is it. This is my thing, And I didn't even I truly, to this day, I don't even love bodybuilding. I love what it did for my life. I love the process of bodybuilding and what it teaches you. But I don't like being on stage as much. I don't know, something about whenever I got on stage, I kind of lost it. I don't know. But
that's so powerful though, your story alone, and that I think is something that, you touched on, you didn't have that support system. And I think there's a lot of, not just hemophiliacs, but people that don't have that person or community. And, sometimes it just, you go through life and you see where you need it, and now you're being that person for those people. That's exactly a strong story, man.
Yeah, man. And when you live for other people, it gives you purpose. Right. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about. We'll kind of make this the last topic so that it doesn't go too long. But I wanted to talk about purpose real quick. Have you found purpose in your life, Carlin, with what you've gone through? And how how do you pursue it? How do you actively pursue that on a daily basis?
Well, I definitely have found a purpose, and definitely with losing the swim, not really losing the swimming aspect of things, but not coming from swimming for 4 years, starting at 4 years of age, then swimming all the way through college, all the way through high school, all the way through middle school, having that pulled away from me was tough. Then already having hemophilia was tough as well. But then when I found the coaching job, then I found the other coaching job, then I found the bodybuilding side of things. That's when I kind of started to find my purpose. Then the main purpose here is to really show what we are capable of and what we can do. I am no different than LA. I'm no different than Caleb. I'm no different than anyone other hemophiliac that's out there. We all are capable of doing much more. It's just we were scared because the first words that doctors say is stay away from being physical.
Yeah. How do
So
you how do you define purpose in yourself?
the purpose in myself would be I just strive to be a better person each day because I have kids that I coach that look up to me. So I'm I'm getting pretty hard on myself the more and more I grow up. And I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, but if I don't hit the gym one day, I'm pretty hard on myself about it because it's like if I don't hit the gym, it's like, well, my kids swim today, but I didn't do this today.
Yeah.
Because in order for me to give them 100%, I have to make sure that I take care of what I have to take care of.
Yeah.
So like I make sure the purpose for me is make sure I'm taking care of my body the way that I need to in order for me to keep going.
Yeah. That's
Because
awesome.
if I don't take care of my body, then that's it.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think you go through phases in life. The first phase of life is all about you, all about your growth, all about all that stuff. And then I think you start to find purpose when you start thinking about what you can do for other people.
Yeah.
And once you start giving back and you start changing other people's lives, big things start to happen for you and your life starts to come together. I think a lot of people get stuck because they kind of have like a victim mentality and they're so honed in on them. And all they
I
need to
mean,
do is change that and start focusing on others.
it's really hard to like get out of that mentality. And the reason why I say that is because when you're growing up with hemophilia, you, when you first get it, you don't know you're the only one. You only hear doctors saying, yeah, there's many more of you, but you don't know you're the only one. So when you don't know you're the only one, and I feel like most people don't know that they're the only one until like they start to get older.
Yeah.
Then once they get older, that's when I feel like it's kind of starting to change. But when I was younger, man, I feel like that was my hardest time dealing with the bleeding disorder
Yeah.
because no one, you really, if you didn't have that support system and you really didn't have like that best friend to talk to, no one really understands what you went through. You can go to school in a crutch one day, then the next day you don't go to school with a crutch. Everyone's thinking you're playing now. You're not hurt. Or you can be in a wheelchair for a month or two. The next month you're walking. No one believes you. You weren't hurt. You just wanted to be in a wheelchair. So then just trying to find different little things and like being a kid at that age, kids are you're a kid, so you really don't know what's going on. So like if I wasn't swimming, my other outing was like playing chess. So I wanted to go play chess. So I joined the chess club. You got picked on for joining the chess club. So it was just like every little thing that you do and you get picked on for it while having the bleeding disorder. It was just like, okay, where do I go from here? Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Anything I do, I'm getting picked on for.
Yeah.
So the saying of like, be you, that is something that I have grown to learn since I've kind of grown up. That is really something that I have grown to learn because I spent probably half of my life trying to find what's me. And now that like I have sat down and had that time to really find my ground without the swimming part of my life. It is really slowly coming together. I am still kind of finding those big pieces that I need, but for the most part, I mean, it's really important to be you to the fullest, because if we're not you to the fullest, it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah. So Caleb, do you want to answer that one about like how you define purpose and what you do on a daily basis to actively pursue it?
No, definitely. And like I think Carmine definitely hit on so many uh, points that I completely relate to in sentiment. I'm sure there's a lot you relate to as well. You know, and I think to your question on purpose, that's a loaded question because like there's some people who are like in the second half of their life and they don't even have a purpose or don't know what a purpose is. I think in my case, um, you know, a purpose is something like that I'm still sort of figuring out, So I think over time I've learned to not like dislike myself. I think one of the things that Carline pointed out that's something I personally struggle with as well is being your own biggest critique when you're not doing X, Y, Z because maybe your purpose is there, but you're not giving yourself that 100% to actualize your purpose.
Yeah.
And I think so far it feels like the direction in my life that I'm going towards is just to give back to this community. And it's interesting because this is a community that I'm recently getting into because I didn't even know this was a community that existed up until like 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Like honestly,
Dream.
I thought I was the only one in my life. Not the only, but like
See?
I'm sure there's people out there, but and then come find out like these newsletters and there's a community HFA. I'm like, there's these big events like this. I'm like, whoa. And in a way, I feel like I'm a big man of God, and I do feel that God sort of puts you in places in unexpected ways, and I think that kind of circles back to this idea of purpose. Like for me, at least, my purpose is what God wants. So my purpose, I think we're all what we need to be at right now, and maybe I can't define exactly what that purpose is, but what I am doing and giving back it feels right. So maybe that's the purpose.
No, I love that, man. And I'm a man of God. I'm a Christian man. I pray every day, ask for clarity and guidance. And, I do the same thing for sure. And so I love that. I think that purpose could evolve too, as you grow, as you reach new levels, it can keep on evolving and go to bigger, different things. One thing I want to talk about real quick though, for me, there's this guy, Tony Robbins. I don't know if you've
I'm familiar. Yeah.
I used to study him all the time. And what I love, I implemented this about 7 years ago. And what he likes to do is create something called a destiny statement. Yeah. And basically you use about 5 to 8 words to create this statement, and you use it as a compass in your life. So I'll give you an example of what mine looked like. And you want to use as least amount of words as possible. And I came up with use adversity to change lives. And basically, so I posted that statement on my wall. I put it in my background for my phone and stuff. And anytime you're making a big life decision, you stop and ask yourself, is this going to take me towards my destiny statement? Using university to change lives. Just taking this job, is that going to get me in that direction, or maybe not? And so. And I feel like why you need a compass in your life is you're always going to have setbacks. And all of a sudden you're going to find yourself going way off course. Okay, now I'm doing drugs. Now I'm, doing this and that. Is this using adversity to change lives? No, it's not. So I need to get back on track. Is this job really taking me in that direction? No. Somebody asks you, do you want to attend the event? Yes or no? Yes, if it's taking me to using adversity to change lives, and I don't know, I just fall back on that, it's a compass to get you back on track whenever you fall off. I thought it was really cool. I use that.
I'm gonna incorporate that. That sounds like something I need to do to sort of, or just more people in general, just sort of outline.
What's crazy is I did that 7 years ago, and during COVID, I wrote a book called Adversity Equals Opportunity. And I just found that being my thing was that I changed my mindset. Whether I got into a bad relationship, I got in trouble with the law, I'm in jail now, whatever it is, like, dude, I flipped my mindset to where's the opportunity here? Like, instead of being like, oh man, my life sucks. Oh, why did this happen to me? Why do I have hemophilia? Whatever. It's like, anytime something bad happens now, that's like, I talked about it before. It's like my superpower now, where I'm just like, okay, where's the opportunity in this? And so yeah, so now it's like, once you do that so many times, you start developing character and yourself that's going to be able to help other people. So that's me using adversity to change lives.
That's very strong.
Yeah, but hey, we're about 40 minutes in, and I want to thank you guys for jumping on. And I think that we should do more in the future too. Carlin, we're going to do one in person. Caleb, hopefully we can do some more. I could maybe dive into deeper subjects and stuff.
But make it in-person session.
Yeah,
show.
I'm glad we did it. It's like we didn't have all the right setup here right now, but it's going to turn out good.
I mean, sometimes it's the imperfect situations that make the best situations.
Yeah.
So,
and hey, well, real quick, we're at the HFA event. Let me talk about this real quick. So, like, how's your experience? Is this your first one?
It's my second one actually.
Okay.
So this is it's great. Like I'm happy. Like I said, I'm happy that my friend he's actually serving in the Navy. So he's a Navy man. He just so happens.
He's a big dude, Carlin. Watch out, man. He's coming for your title.
Yeah. So he's stationed out here, and it just so happened that HFA was in San Diego. My best friend's out here. We're both from New York, which is the other side of the country.
Yeah.
So we're like perfect opportunity. We out here having a good time, and so. And Carlin, we definitely gotta lock in too, man. I'm gonna get your contact from.
Hey, just let me know.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
Definitely good stuff.
Yeah, cool. Did you get a chance to do any of the breakout sessions or anything?
I haven't today.
Okay.
I did get to connect with some of the like I was telling you, Ray. One of the people that was doing the presentation and stuff. So definitely for tomorrow, I'm gonna be trying to get more locked in with it. But
no, that's cool though. It's just like a good vibe being around everyone that you can relate to.
Oh, definitely, and it's so good to just be in a community of people that understand. I think that's the one thing that I appreciate is that we all come up from a place like we understand what this is, even if how it manifests differently in each individual life, but we all have this shared understanding. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome. I heard next year it's going to be in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So you got to go to that, Carlin.
Yeah, you got to pop
New
Orleans.
I'll start coming to them.
Yeah.
I got to get back into them. I used to go to them when I was younger. It's just when I got older, I haven't been back.
Right.
Yeah. Well, sweet, man. Well, thanks a lot. I'll hit you up soon, man. Appreciate you.
All right. No problem. Thank you. You have a good one.
Okay, man.
Let me do that session for all.